Things in the gaming world are about to get wild, and most folks have no idea just how deep this rabbit hole goes. Everywhere you turn, there's chatter about a new Nintendo Switch 2, rumored performance upgrades, and certain JRPGs that could redefine how we play. Even if you think you've heard it all, trust me, there's far more to this story than some passing rumor. Fasten your seatbelts because we're about to dive into a whirlwind of leaks, controversies, and surprising reveals that no one saw coming. We've got the saga of Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, a potential hardware shift from Nintendo, a legendary developer's bold claims, and a couple of titles making headlines for both the right and wrong reasons. The gaming community's excitement is on overdrive, but not without a fair share of debates and fiery speculation. Let's jump right into the heart of it and see why so many players are buzzing about the future of Nintendo and maybe even the entire industry. Welcome to Gamers Service Announcement. GSA, the more you know. Click that subscribe button and hit on the alert button to get notified about new videos for you. All eyes are on Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition right now. Critics are raving about its vast open world and seamless design, with some scores reportedly floating around the high 80s, outclassing the original Wii U release from nearly a decade ago. Seeing a game get revived so successfully has people asking, is this just nostalgia talking, or is there something genuinely groundbreaking here? Part of the allure is how Xenoblade Chronicles X manages to juggle gigantic mechs, sprawling environments, and a storyline that doesn't exactly fit the mold of the other Xenoblade titles. The game dares to be different by pushing players into an uncharted planet that feels bigger, stranger, and more open than many modern RPGs. Yet, not everyone is convinced. Some call it empty, others too ambitious, while the whole camp claims it's simply ahead of its time. Rumors swirl about how the definitive edition has finessed the original's performance snags. On the original Wii U, players often encountered dips in frame rate whenever the action got too heated. Now, thanks to new hardware and meticulous tweaks, those issues are supposedly much less frequent. It's a technical marvel, many say, one that stands as a testament to how thorough a definitive edition can be. But the biggest wave of speculation centers on whether Xenoblade Chronicles X might get even more fine-tuning if it launches or gets a patch for a rumored next-gen Nintendo system. Some fans argue that a powerful new console could finally unleash the game's true potential, upping the frame rate to a silky 60 FPS or scaling visuals to 4K. Critics, meanwhile, worry that re-releasing older titles on new hardware might overshadow fresh projects or turn into a double-dip money grab. One thing is certain, people can't stop talking about it. The question is, will Nintendo seize this momentum for something bigger? Because as we move into the next phase, the conversation shifts from, is the game good, to will it become a Switch 2 launch staple? And that, as many suspect, could be a make-or-break decision for the next generation of Nintendo fans. But that's barely scratching the surface of the bigger conversation. For months, the gaming community has been on edge about the Nintendo Switch 2. Rumors have placed its grand reveal on April 2nd, 2025, a date that's got fans marking their calendars, saving up, and scouring every corner of the internet for the slightest leak. Nintendo itself remains tight-lipped, but the sheer volume of speculation has turned the rumor mill into an unstoppable locomotive. Imagine a system that takes the best of the Switch: portability, convenience, a massive library, and supercharges it. Whispers about DLSS-style upscaling, 4K resolution, and 60 FPS across the board have circulated with an almost feverish energy. The real kicker is how these rumored upgrades could transform existing Switch titles. Games we love that struggle with stutter or resolution dips might suddenly gain new life. Titles like Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, which already push boundaries, might soar even higher. Yet here's where the controversy bubbles up. Some industry observers warn that a Switch 2 wave of enhanced re-releases might discourage studios from creating brand new adventures. They say we're risking a flood of old titles with new performance patches, overshadowing fresh IPs. Are we facing a golden era where classics get the glow-up they deserve? Or a potential scenario where game libraries bloat with rehashed content? Then there's the question of price. If developers charge a premium for these updated versions, players may feel nickel and dimed, fueling heated debates about whether performance patches should be free. Remember how cross-gen upgrades worked for certain PlayStation 4/5 titles? Some studios gave them away, others slapped on a fee. Expect a similar debate with the Switch 2, complete with loyalists defending Nintendo's decisions and critics lashing out at perceived greed. And let's not forget the hardware itself. The original Switch, for all its innovation, often struggle to maintain consistent frame rates, especially with bigger open-world games. The possibility of a stronger successor is enough to make even the most casual gamer perk up. What about memory? Battery life or storage capacity? Each day, new rumors promise everything from groundbreaking new Joy-Con designs to a drastic overhaul of the eShop interface. The stakes are high. If the Switch 2 meets these lofty expectations, it could dominate the conversation for years. If it stumbles, or if gamers feel burned by endless re-releases, Nintendo risks losing its golden momentum. Either way, the entire industry is watching. And if you think hardware speculation is the only thing shaking up the scene, just wait until you hear what Masahiro Sakurai's been saying. Masahiro Sakurai, the mastermind behind Super Smash Bros., recently made waves with his comments on how Japanese developers should keep creating the kind of games they want to make, rather than chasing Western trends. According to Sakurai, countless fans worldwide don't want an Americanized take on their favorite Japanese franchises. They want the distinct flavor that only Japanese teams can deliver. While many players wholeheartedly embrace this philosophy, citing the global success of titles like Monster Hunter, Final Fantasy, and Dragon Quest, some wonder if this approach could limit a developer's reach. After all, Western A blockbusters often overshadow niche Japanese titles in sales charts. But Sakurai insists there's a massive audience that craves that uniquely Japanese flair, gameplay style, and storytelling approach. In his mind, studios should focus on authenticity, letting their imagination run wild without pandering to external pressures. This stance directly ties back to games like Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, which remained unapologetically distinct from typical Western RPGs. Its storyline, art direction, and combat systems radiate a Japanese essence. Those who love it absolutely adore it. Those who don't struggle to connect. It's a polarizing effect that stems from staying true to the creator's vision. Interestingly, Sakurai's words also reflect on the broader controversies swirling around the Switch 2. Japanese devs might be more inclined to harness the new hardware in ways that speak to their unique design philosophies. Instead of chasing hyper-realistic, Western-oriented visuals, they could refine the stylized approach that fans worldwide have grown to love. Or so the theory goes. Critics, on the other hand, say it's not so black and white. They point to Japanese studios that successfully blend Western influences into their work, forging a style that appeals to nearly everyone. They question whether Sakurai's viewpoint might inadvertently shut out positive global collaboration. Yet, as the hype for more localized Japanese games continues, it's hard to dismiss Sakurai's remarks. At the end of the day, it's a vision that calls for innovation without compromise, something the gaming community consistently champions. But some developers are tackling a more immediate challenge, making sure their games even run well at launch. One studio feeling the heat is behind Atelier Yumiya, the alchemist of memories and the Vision Land. Players who tested the demo version wasted no time sounding off about glaring problems. Chief among them? Camera hiccups that made it tough to navigate battles, open-world segments that stuttered on certain platforms, and a sense that the controls lacked polish. Talk about a rough first impression. Developers quickly took note. They promised a series of updates aiming to fix camera behavior, adjust character control, and optimize performance across every platform. For fans who fell in love with the bright aesthetics and alchemy-driven plot, this was a relief. Nobody wants a half-baked release. The devs even hinted at day one patches, always a double-edged sword. Yes, it shows they're committed to improvement, but repeated patches can also raise eyebrows. Why not release the game when it's properly optimized in the first place? The biggest question is how the Nintendo Switch version will fare. That platform can be unforgiving if your game demands too much processing muscle. Some early testers reported choppy frame rates in expansive areas. Others found transitions between exploration and combat a tad jarring. It's unclear whether these hiccups are major or minor in the grand scheme, but the development team's messaging is clear. They're on it. So where does the rumored Switch 2 factor in? Players can't help but imagine how a newer, stronger console might alleviate the performance mess. If Atelier Yumiya is still relevant by then, perhaps through expansions or DLC, could it see a second life on updated hardware? It's a real possibility, and one more studios might consider. Release on the Switch now, then recapture an audience when the Switch 2 drops. Yet all this planning can crumble if your game ends up overshadowed by bigger announcements. And overshadowing is precisely what some worry about with another upcoming title's chosen release date. Remember Croc, the legend of the goose from the late 90s? It left a mark on the platforming scene, delighting a generation of gamers. It might not have reached Mario or Crash Bandicoot levels of fame, but it carved out its own community. Decades later, the remaster is back with polished visuals and a treasure trove of behind-the-scenes goodies titled The Crucipedia. On paper, it sounds like a treat for retro fans. Then came the release date, April 2nd, 2025. A date that makes many fans cringe because it's rumored to be the exact day Nintendo pulls back the curtain on the Switch 2. If that reveal goes down as speculated, social media channels, game news outlets, and YouTubers around the globe will focus almost exclusively on the new console. The timing for Croc could be catastrophic, like trying to launch a boat during a full-blown hurricane. Some folks argue that this might be strategic, banking on the flood of new interest in anything Nintendo-related. A best-case scenario could have Croc sliding into the conversation as the retro throwback you can also play on the new hardware, or at least on the older Switch. But if the rumors pan out, all eyes will be on major system features, brand new AAA titles, and the big reveals we've come to expect from a next-gen unveiling. Still, the developers of this remaster claim they need that extra time to perfect the game. They're adding features like the Crucipedia, an extensive look at prototype sketches, design documents, and behind-the-scenes commentary. It's the kind of archival bonus that makes a remaster feel like a genuine celebration of gaming history. Whether that labor of love will matter in the face of potential overshadowing is anyone's guess. It's a weird spot to be in. Fans who grew up with Croc might be torn between nostalgia and the hype for brand new hardware. Let's face it, the Switch 2 reveal might overshadow just about anything else. Croc could still charm players, but it has a mountain to climb on that particular day. So, how will this all shake out? Let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Right now, it feels like an electric storm is brewing in the gaming landscape. On one hand, the promise of hardware leaps and bigger budgets suggests a new golden era for beloved series. Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition could become the poster child for how older gems shine brightest with a second Polish pass. Atelier Yumiya might refine its quirky approach, eventually thriving once patches smooth over the rough edges. And yes, even Croc could carve out an unlikely success story if nostalgia joins forces with strategic marketing. On the other hand, there's a risk we're blowing this hype balloon to its bursting point. If the Switch 2 fails to meet expectations, or if the rumored enhancements come at a steep cost, audiences might lash out. Performance improvements are great, but not if you have to buy the same game 3 times just to see it run smoothly. If we're not careful, we could drown in waves of re-releases, overshadowing original projects that deserve the spotlight. Meanwhile, Sakurai's comments prompt a deeper question. Should Japanese developers double down on the cultural identity of their games? If so, we could witness a renaissance of uniquely Japanese titles that captivate global audiences, purely on creative merits. Or we might see a backlash from players who want more universal approaches. It's a gamble, but one that could lead to truly standout games if done right. And let's not forget, the entire conversation hinges on rumors. Nintendo has yet to confirm details about the Switch 2. Release dates for certain titles could change. We might be on track for the greatest year in Nintendo history, or one of the biggest letdowns. That uncertainty is fueling countless debates online. What if Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition gets a massive expansion that no one saw coming, timed perfectly with the new hardware? Or suppose Atelier Yumiya emerges as the sleeper hit that thrives precisely because it doesn't rely on nostalgia. Even more radical, imagine Croc launching with full Switch 2 compatibility, sporting performance modes that blow the original out of the water. Anything is possible, and that unpredictability keeps us glued to every announcement. So here we stand, on the brink of something monumental. Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition is making waves, drawing a new generation into its colossal open world. Nintendo Switch 2 rumors churn like a storm, promising either the dawn of a revolutionary era or an expensive uphill battle. Sakurai urges developers to trust their roots, while studios scramble to optimize demos and plan for uncertain launch windows. And in the midst of it all, a plucky crocodile might waltz onto the scene at the worst, or possibly best time. Think about how these threads might weave together. There's a common pulse here. The gaming industry is evolving, and none of us know exactly how it'll look after the dust settles. Will Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition become a legendary system seller if it pairs with Switch 2 enhancements? Will Atelier Yumiya find its footing in a crowded market? Can Croc defy the odds and steal a spotlight overshadowed by next-gen glitz? The only certainty is that all these elements, rumors, controversies, and genuine excitement, are shaping the conversation right now. The question is, how will you fit into this narrative? Are you skeptical of re-releases, or do you crave an updated library of polished classics? Do you share Sakurai's belief in keeping games culturally unique, or do you think collaboration across regions is key? Let me know where you stand. Post your thoughts, predictions, and hopes for whatever Nintendo has in store. Because once we cross that threshold, once the Switch 2 is revealed, once we see which titles soar and which ones stumble, we'll have entered a new era of gaming that could redefine our favorite pastime. And that, my friends, might be the biggest shock of all. Thanks for tuning in. Stick around if you want more deep dives into upcoming hardware, behind-the-scenes controversies, and every twist that rocks the world of gaming. The future's looking brighter and stranger by the day, and you won't want to miss a single moment. If you like this, be sure to subscribe and hit that alert button for more awesome videos. Gamers Service Announcement: the more you know.